Hey, good morning, church. It's so good to be back with you. I want to take a moment and thank Ryan for the great job he did the last 2 weeks. Honestly, I have to tell you, if you don't know everything there is to know about Jonah after he preached on it in September and after the last 2 weeks, you have not been paying attention. Ryan did such a nice job of unpacking Jonah. But we find ourselves this morning shifting from Jonah, which is a historical account involving historical people in a historical time in history, back to the prophets railing against Israel and Judah. In this particular case, Micah is railing against the southern kingdom of Judah. So we find ourselves in this passage during a time when King Ahaz is on the throne. Now, this is a king that did evil in the sight of the Lord. He would ultimately be replaced by Hezekiah, and there would be a period of prophetic peace as prophesied by Micah. But when Micah rails against Ahaz, Ahaz was doing things like he sacrificed his own children to the god Baal. Just horrible, horrible atrocities. So Micah really comes and is a voice speaking out against the oppression of the poor and the marginalized and everything that Jesus represents. One of the things that I want us to know about Micah is in Micah we find a messianic prophecy of the birth of Jesus in chapter 5, verse 12. I invite you to go take a look at that yourself. It's just a clear picture of what is going to happen in Bethlehem hundreds of years later. So here we are in the book of Micah, a champion for the oppressed. And every passage that we read in this short prophetic book shows the wrath of God, and then it is followed by the promises of God for blessings of his people if they repent. Right? So this is not an uncommon theme that we've been watching over the last 16, 17 weeks as we've looked at these minor prophets. So we'll be in Micah for the next 3 weeks, a couple of interesting passages. So let me share with you this morning's passage. It comes from Micah chapter 4, verse 3. It says that he, God, will judge between many peoples and will settle disputes for strong nations far and wide. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up sword against nation, nor will they train for war anymore. Wow, what a great word from the Lord. And wouldn't that be great if we were moving in that direction to see ourselves in a place where we no longer had to worry about global enemies, right? Or terrorism, right? But I think what God is trying to tell us in this passage is there's going to come a day when peace is what will reign. So I want to ask us this morning, in light of this prophetic word about how we can turn, literally the armaments of war into instruments of good and service and peace. What does that look like in our lives? What does that look like for you today? What area of your life needs to see you take those things, that anger, that bitterness, those things you've been holding on for a long time, those justice issues that you just seem to never see come about? What are those things that literally God needs you to place on an anvil and beat it into something else that's for good? One of the things Ryan said in a sermon, I think in August or September, is he said we need to be thinking about what is helpful. That has really stuck with me over the last 6 weeks, of thinking about every situation I'm in. Is what I'm about to say, is what I'm about to do, is it helpful? Is it hopeful? Does it bring a sense of God's peace and mercy to bear on the situation we're living in? So this is where Micah is at this time with Judah. And what's fascinating to me, church, is that these passages in the Old Testament, oh my gosh, they're so relevant to the world we're living in today. They are mirror images of the prophets of old calling us into account to repent and to be who God has called us to be. So I hope that you'll dig into Micah, and we've got a couple more passages. We're going to pick up another passage out of chapter 4 next week to allow the prophet to speak to us. And may he speak to us today and say, listen, peace is what we need to be seeking. We need to set aside those moments of quick anger that we see all around us, that we need to be non-contributors to this, that we would be instruments of God's peace everywhere we go. So food for thought this week for sure. I'm so proud of our church. So many good things happening. I want to thank everyone who's helped us with the pumpkin patch. Oh my gosh. It has been a window to joy from my office for the last week. So again, church, we look forward to being with you again next Monday. I hope you have a glorious day, and I hope it sets your week off to a glorious start. Love you.